Welcome to the Trying to Be Better podcast with Joel and Steve.
There she is.
He did it.
I did it. I did the thing with the technology.
Oh, fucking technology, man.
Yeah. So I just asked Joel a minute ago, how's reentry going?
Well, if my computer turning on is any indication of how my reentry is going,
It took a few minutes.
I got the color wheel of death forever. My computer was like, you left me at home. You didn't open me for over a week. I'm not going to do anything you want me to do. And then my dog, who's been a super sweetheart for an entire 7-day road trip, decided to find one of my old disposable razors and chew the razor part off and then protect it underneath the bed. And she kind of bit me as I was trying to get a razor from her mouth.
That's wonderful.
And I'm really trying, man. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
To be the shepherd. Yeah. How's that going, Ringo?
I've done no spiritual work this morning. I'm tired.
That kind of sounds like you have, actually.
Whew. Welcome to the Trying to Be Better podcast with Joel and Steve, everyone. My name is Joel.
And I'm Steve.
And this is a podcast.
With any luck at all. We did hit record and it will get aired, so podcast.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so re-entry. We didn't pod last week because I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota on my way to the North Shore of Lake Superior in Minnesota.
How was the North Shore?
So if anybody has the opportunity to go to the North Shore, up the shore, North Shore, Minnesota, from like Duluth all the way up to like you can go all the way to Canada, anywhere in there during late September, early October, I highly recommend it.
Because pretty?
Okay. Yes, the foliage
sure,
is unmatched. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
The lake is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There are waterfalls every few miles. There's hiking, there's food, there's a place called Betty's Pies in Two Harbors. That's where we stayed. She has great pie. I went to a place in Grand Marais. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. And the place was called World's Best Donuts.
Uh-huh.
I got a hat.
You got it. So it was a good donut.
It was a good donut.
The donut's so good that you bought one of the hats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was just a lovely autumn getaway road trip. We drove from here straight up to Minneapolis, stayed in Minneapolis a couple nights, and then drove from Minneapolis to Two Harbors, Minnesota, and stayed there for 3 or 4 nights, and then drove back to Clear Lake, Iowa, stayed there for a night, and then just got back to Lincoln last night.
Nice. What'd you do in Minneapolis? Did you go to Paisley Park?
We did not. I don't think they allow dogs in there.
Oh.
We did not go to Well, I was up in Minneapolis last month and I didn't go to Paisley Park either, right?
I've been listening to a little early Prince lately. Somehow I missed that whole thing. I feel a little remiss.
You missed? Well, there's no being late to the party when it comes to music.
But I feel like had I listened to Prince prior to, like, the albums before, like Purple Rain, I feel like my adolescence would have been a lot more interesting.
Oh, you would have learned a lot.
Right.
I was hip to Prince. My mom is a Prince fan. We listened to Prince. Like, I remember we all kind of gave her a hard time then, but looking back, that was a pretty hip mom thing to do, was to blast Prince in the house.
Love it.
Yeah, Prince is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My memories with Prince start with Purple Rain though too.
Sure.
Well,
that was his entry into the mainstream, so
yeah. What was it? Was he funkier early on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Disco funk.
Oh, okay.
Funk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Really, really great. One of my favorite, not that I want to give Eric Clapton any credit because he's an asshat, but he did say many years ago, like, if you ever want to know what direction music is heading, just listen to what Prince is doing.
Yeah, he was right.
Yep. You got that one right.
Funk soul. He even got a little hip hoppy there in the mid to late 80s.
Sure.
Yeah.
I speaking of mid to late 80s, my highlight of my last week wasn't a trip to, a cool place in Minnesota, but I did go see the 40th anniversary reissue of Stop Making Sense at the Riepma Ross Theater.
Nice.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I wish I could have seen it in IMAX, but whatever, the Riepma Ross is fine. And they got a new sound system in there that is phenomenal.
Good.
And just speakers everywhere. And the remastering was fantastic. I mean, the whole thing. And my 14-year-old daughter went with us and loved it, which is a huge win. And it really kind of struck me as about halfway through it, like it doesn't feel dated at all because there was no fashion of the 80s in it. It was Talking Heads fashion.
Yeah, right.
It was they were blazing their own thing,
Right.
and by them I mean mostly David Byrne. But yeah. It was fantastic. And then there weren't very many people. And here's a funny thing. You'll appreciate this. Like we were the only people in the theater when we got there. And I'm like, yes, because I either wanted it to be totally empty or a dance party packed,
right,
partying,
Yeah.
And I bet we went to the 5 o'clock show, but the 9 o'clock show would have been a little bit more full,
lively.
Yeah. And then this whatever, late 60s, early 70s couples walk in, and then like shortly, like kind of as the lights were starting to go down, and I'm already sitting there thinking like, great, this is, I'm thinking about how Francesca, my daughter's thinking about it,
right,
like, oh great, this is obviously a hip place to be, and then I swear to God, this really old couple started with the guy had a walker, and it took them about 10 minutes to get to a seat.
Yeah.
And it was painful. Like I felt bad for just the entire situation. And then it was one of those things if you were making a movie, like a satire of what, a bunch of people going to see a 40-year-old reissue would look like.
Yeah.
That would have been in it. If it was a Christopher Guest movie, like the young person that was dragged there by their parents, thinking, great, this is awesome. And then to have that, you could just film the whole thing in real time just to make it totally uncomfortable. This person very like at a pace that could best be described as glacial,
right,
making their way to the seat, and then of course they're sitting in like, what? Like, oh my God, they ended up leaving, but it was just kind of comical. Just like the whole scene. But the movie was phenomenal. The music was phenomenal. Seeing it on the big screen was phenomenal. And it was just amazing. And then on the way out, one of the older couples, just people, we kind of made eye contact. There weren't very many. There was like 6 of us in the theater, 10 maybe. And as we were kind of coming out I just made eye contact. I'm like, well, that was, a good time. And they're like, yeah. And we started talking, and they, talk about Small Cosmos, used to go see the Talking Heads at CBGB in the late 70s.
Oh wow.
And Blondie and the Ramones.
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah.
Like they were there,
Right.
I asked the guy, I'm like, was it like, did this make you happy? Was it good to see it? And he kind of went, it did. He said, I thought it was going to make me sad, but I feel good. Just because so much time has passed, or we didn't really get into that, but they were just far out. And I'm going to see if they will come on the pod and just talk about all that.
Oh yeah. That would be excellent.
Yeah. Because you
got their information.
I did. Yeah. We're friends on Facebook now. And I'm not going to say names just because we haven't talked about it, but they were just super cool, and they are cool. And they're musician people here in Lincoln, and art people like you would expect, but I don't know what I would expect, but it makes sense is what I'm saying.
Stop making sense, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. Don't bump. But yeah, they, it was kind of funny. They commented on Facebook, like, we met this younger couple, and I'm like, oh, we're younger people,
You're the younger couple.
who this felt, they said, like, their perceptions, like, we were looking at them like they're from another planet. And so I just responded, I'm like, well, I was a little starstruck, like that.
Yeah.
Music, that area, I mean, I like it a lot, that whole situation. I've only seen it in picture books and videos. I've never talked to anybody that actually saw the Talking Heads at CBGB.
Right. Yeah.
That's a whole different situation,
Right.
And so I was just really delightful to meet them and kind of start something resembling just a connection, with
right. It's I did a play with this guy, Jacob, who in LA, who is probably a few years older than me, but he lived in Seattle during the sort of fever pitch pre commercialization of the grunge era. And I remember sitting with him on breaks, just like starry-eyed, like, you saw them and you saw them and you were there when they did that. And, I'm sure it was a similar vibe of those folks in New York at that time, because that wasn't a long period of time before it got out of whack.
Right.
It was just a very slim amount.
Yep. Couple years.
Yeah. Just a couple years, and it like changed everything.
Yep.
And it'd be really fascinating to talk to them.
Well, because like my introduction to Blondie was The Tide Is High.
Right.
As like a 12-year-old, know?
Yeah.
Then you start digging into the back catalog and their history is like, holy shit. Yeah. And can we just pause for a moment to reflect on Debbie Harry for a minute?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. All that and a bag of chips. Mm-hmm.
So they didn't, it was the same theatrical release. They just revamped the sound, remastered the sound, and
remastered the video 4K,
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a piece of theater that, like,
well, it was directed by Jonathan Demme. I mean, it is a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the arc that the performance takes is so cool. And it stands up even now, like, even with the stuff that he did with his Broadway show. Did you see that?
American Utopia.
Yeah. Like that
Very cool.
whole, like, very, like, the aesthetic of everything. I'm like, seeing that, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what he does. And like watching Stop Making Sense, it's this beautiful wave that builds and builds and builds, and with just and then props and things, and then it gets
a little bit, and then it hits you again.
Yeah. And the sheer athletic ability of all of those musicians to go that hard for that, like, choreographed dancing, jumping around, running in place for 2 hours.
Yeah. I got to see David Byrne in 92, I think, at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, which is a whole other situation.
Yeah.
It's a, much revered venue. And it was very similar what he did was, and there's video on YouTube about this, but the ticket just said An Evening with David Byrne. Right. And we're like, whatever, we're in. Right. And we went down there, and he walks out just exactly like in Stop Making Sense. He just walked out on this bare stage. There was just like, a theater, like the red velvet theater curtain behind him. I think it was purple, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, that was the backdrop, just very austere. Am I saying that right?
Sure.
Stripped down, walks out with the boombox. Everybody's like, oh, look, he's doing the boombox thing. And he played like, after a couple songs, we kind of thought maybe somebody else would come out on stage, like in Stop Making Sense. And he played like 5 or 6 songs, 7 maybe. And by that time, we had we being everybody at the Greek Theater, 4,000 or 5,000 people, were like, maybe it is just an evening with David Byrne. Great. Like, this is okay, great. This is nice, Yeah. And as soon as you could feel that collective, like, oh, well, this is what it is, the curtain drops, full band behind the curtain, and they launch into Mr. Jones from their last album with a big horn hit, right? Yeah. And everybody, it just blew us all because he made it go far enough that we gave up on the idea of there being a band.
Yeah.
And then hit us at 110 decibels with a band.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
And I was like, that is awesome because he knows the story he's telling. Yep. Right. He knows the audience trick that he's playing, and it's like the theatricality of that is so fun and so interesting. And he doesn't never, if I get the sense that he doesn't forget that when he's performing.
Nope.
And the other thing too that like is cool, in 1992, it's not like you could go on some website and find that out. And like you had no idea that, like, there was nobody that knew.
No clue. And just the fact that they had, I mean, it was probably it was full like rhythm section, couple guitars, horn section, keyboards, all of that. Nobody had any idea that was behind that curtain.
Yeah.
Right. They were just sitting back there. And it literally, like, I mean, I distinctly remember looking at my buddy, who both of us had been Talking Heads fans for a decade at that point. It was a big moment for us, but we went through he's doing the Stop Making Sense thing to like, is this all this is going to be?
Yeah.
This might be all it's going to be. And
yeah,
frankly, it's like, this is kind of intimate and cool. And I guess we'll settle in,
Yeah. Right.
And then wham. And it was just a dance party for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was amazing. Right on. It was amazing. Is cool. Uh-huh.
I am sad that I saw that, like, well, there were two things that were happening in the area that I was sacrificing by going up to the
Joel.
North Shore, Minnesota. But that was one of them, because I really did want to see that. And I don't know if I'll be able to see it in that context. The other thing was Bad Religion played Omaha.
Oh yeah, I saw that
Friday night. I'm like, God damn it. Right. I don't know how long those guys are going to get to do that, but that would have been great. But that's cool. You got to see that, dude, because you were somebody who made me I'm like, I'd heard the Talking Heads, right? I'm sure my sister played them when I was a kid, and there's songs that you just kind of know. And I was kind of thought, these guys are weird. Like, they're fun. They're kind of weird. I'm not going to really look back at them, but I think it was you playing, like, Burning Down the House and shit at when you DJ'd stuff
from Stop Making Sense.
Right. Yes. You played that version. And I remember thinking, oh, I need to go check these guys out again.
Yeah.
And then first time I watched Stop Making Sense, I was blown away just by the whole production of it.
Well, I was talking to this couple after the show, like the thing that, like, I obviously didn't get to see him at CBGB's, but the thing that, because I first heard of the Talking Heads when Speaking in Tongues came out, because there was a neighbor kid of mine that was a year older than me that had that.
Yeah.
And the way I described it to these people was they were very much at the entry point. There were some other things happening too, but that where I started to, as I put it, get saved from towny rock. you know?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, for them, with the Talking Heads, it was the realization and like, oh, they're singing about interesting things. And sometimes like about nothing,
About nothing. Yeah.
Like cities and more songs about buildings and food. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you don't have to, like, every fucking song doesn't have to be about love or sex or,
Yep.
Or Jesus.
even the Jesus, heaven is a place where nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Yeah. Right.
Like
and and it could be so exciting and so much fun.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's cool. You got to see that, man. That's really, I'm a little jealous.
You should be.
I am.
I'm a little jealous of your Minnesota trip. I did some work up in northern Minnesota on the Mississippi, a little town called Winona.
Winona,
right on the river, and it's just beautiful up there. I love it. Mosquitoes the size of Volkswagens, but it's great.
That's what Kirsten told me after I did the stereotypical nearing middle age, middle class white guy thing on vacation, where I said, I could live here.
Right.
I do it every time. I was like, you know what? I could live here. I'm going to look at, So, but that's what Kirsten said. She's like, apparently in the summer up there, it's almost unbearable because of the mosquitoes. They're so bad.
I was there in the summer and they are huge. They're the size of like hummingbirds.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's real, like and they're everywhere and it sucks.
Yeah. So, the picturesque winter might be nice. Fall might be
If you
nice.
really enjoy sub-zero temperatures,
Yeah.
that's real too. So
Yeah.
not that the weather in Lincoln, Nebraska is idyllic all the time, but it's the extremes are even more so up there. It doesn't get quite as hot, but the mosquitoes make up for it. Like that's not a joke. It's real.
And that would suck. Like I avoid one of my favorite places in this vicinity is Wilderness Park. I avoid Wilderness Park in the month of July for that very reason.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah. I don't even go near it. I don't go near it.
Yeah.
If I'm riding my bike by it, I go as fast as I can.
Right.
It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it was, I mean, if you ever get the chance to drive up the shore in late September, early October, hot, I mean,
I love
there's
it up there.
There's resorts, there's like you can stay in the night. Like we ordered takeout from this place that was a resort and that had a restaurant, and we we're driving up and there's like, these rentable cabins, quote unquote, and they looked like fucking $300,000-$400,000 houses.
Oh
here.
right, that's
they're like rentable. It's like a resort, so you can stay really nice up there. Or we got a little Airbnb that was kind of it was perfect. It was cheap and it was perfect, and it looked like a cabin and very dog friendly. And you can stay cheap or you can stay high end. And the hiking is it was so great. I mean, you can hike long hikes or you can do little half mile, 2 mile round trip loops up to there's like water. I mean, there was one we went to that was just called like a wayside. It wasn't even like a park. We just pulled off and Kirsten read about it. We're like, yeah, do you just walk about a mile up and back? And we walked up and it's like unassuming, nobody's there. You walk up and there's this huge cascading waterfall and you can keep walking.
That picture. That's amazing.
I mean, it's just like, what? Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And Kirsten and I were talking about like having the dog with us. Like Maven did really well. I'm very grateful that I think it was when we got back into Nebraska from Omaha to Lincoln, she was like done. She was kind of panty. She was like,
I want out of the car.
I want out of this fucking car.
Out of the car.
If I get into if I have to adjust myself to another Airbnb, I'm going to fucking lose it, But
you may have been projecting that a little bit.
Totally am giving her voice. Yeah. Anyway, 99% of the trip, she did great. And, I don't even know what I was saying. It was just great. It was just a really Kirsten was saying I think it was that year and a half ish of us adjusting how we travel and how we do things in COVID that taught us how to travel with a dog, like how to enjoy eating outside and taking things to go and finding hikes and staying in Airbnbs and that sort of thing. Like it was great. It was perfect. Yeah. Highly recommend.
The
North Shore. Yeah. It was great. And I'm rocked.
You're rocked?
I'm rocked.
You need a vacation from your vacation?
Dude, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. I don't want to go back to my real life, Steve. How do we monetize this so that I don't have to work?
How long have we been doing this? 2.5 years?
Are you saying if it was gonna happen, it would have happened by now?
Not necessarily. What I'm saying is that there are steps that we can take, like actions that we can take to further the possibility of that happening. But see, then it's going to turn into work. So then we have to decide. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, is this going to become a job? Is this going to become a vocation? Right? Or is it going to be something that we can just, roll out of bed on Sunday morning or whatever?
Well, I was just looking forward to this because I hadn't connected to you in over
right. I feel you, man.
It's like, oh yeah, I want it to be that. I guess we'll keep the day job so that we can enjoy the fun of this. That's
the conundrum. That's always the artist's conundrum. Do I cut the straight job to put everything I've got into maybe making it?
Right. That's funny though, because my straight job is artistic.
Well, and you're kind of blessed in that regard.
I don't want to.
I understand. I see, but that's the conundrum. That's the conundrum, Joel, right? I'm able to, like, my job is my job. That's it.
Yeah. Right.
No, I don't. There is a certain amount of art to it. Tell you guys, I sent you guys that video I made.
Yeah. Right.
I made an instructional video,
Yeah.
in my office. I taught myself how to use this video editing software, and it took me like 2 hours to make that. So that was kind of, it was kind of artistic.
You got to do some acting recently.
I did.
You were the Nerf gun active shooter.
That's true. Well, thank you. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I blocked it out of my consciousness. Yeah, we had an active shooter drill at my place of employment, and I was the shooter. I had this insane Nerf gun, like an automatic rifle Nerf gun thing that another coworker provided. And I got a few people before I got taken out. Who was it? Like the sheriff was there, his, a couple deputies, the whole 9 yards.
What was the insight from that? What was that like?
I'll tell you the thing that was really first I want to talk a little bit about the reason for it, which is that healthcare workers are getting attacked.
God.
In their places of employment. Because people are fucking insane and everybody can have guns for no reason now.
Yeah.
And by the way, doctors are evil and money grubbing, and they are just shills for big pharma and blah 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 blah. And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going with that? Oh, right. So but it's like the numbers are going up with providers getting shot in their offices. So that's cool. I'm gonna go ahead and just make a broad general assumption that the Venn diagram of people who don't believe COVID is real and people who shoot their providers is one circle.
It's a circle.
Yeah. And so that's why we did this. And the takeaways were that we had there was a lot of communication around it. Everybody knew it was going to happen. It was kind of a surprise, but kind of not a surprise. There's a very specific time window when I was going to come walking through the people didn't know it was me. Most people didn't. Just that something was going to happen. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was some anxiety, man. It made some people worried just because people are going to people. But, we did as much communication as we could around like, look, this is a drill, but we need, please take it seriously. Like, because guess what? The next one might not be Nerf.
Yeah. And when you're in that position, you might remember 2 or 3 things that could save you and others' lives.
100%. If your body hasn't done it, your brain isn't going to tell you to do it.
Right.
And so what happened was we kind of staged up. There was a part of the facility that really can't be interrupted that we kind of staged in that was out of the field of play. But then, so I walked around the building with my automatic Nerf rifle and another one in my vest and pockets full of Nerf bullets.
Wow.
And I just walked in the front door and started shooting. And
wow.
And what was amazing or impressive, I guess my takeaway from it was that people took it really seriously and did an excellent job of running and hiding.
Oh, wow.
Like within, I would say a couple, not even 2 minutes of me walking in there, the place turned into a ghost town.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I know people were hiding underneath their desks. I know people were hiding behind locked doors. I shot the front end supervisor who, after the event, she's like, "You didn't kill me. I was just wounded." But she was wounded enough that I was able to grab her ID badge and then go start letting myself into offices.
Oh, wow.
That would ordinarily be locked.
Yeah.
But like there was a department that barricaded themselves inside of an office door that had no window. And I went up to it and started because the original plan was that I was kind of going to just go a couple places. Right. Mm-hmm. But I realized very quickly that like I was already there. I'd been there 30 seconds and I'd already been to those places. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going around,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I walked into kind of the leadership admin room and there was a lady standing there making copies. I shot her.
Wow.
And then I went around the corner and there was a couple people down and they literally screamed and ran out the back door.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back around and another guy comes walking in. And this is kind of funny because he kind of went off script and got killed.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't stick to the plan and I shot him.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been fine if he would have stayed with his group.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then after, I don't know, I covered a lot of ground. and I checked a bunch of doors and got another person, and then the sheriff came in and I was killed.
I I think it's it sucks that we have to do that level of training and drilling.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I think that I guess I don't know how that would go over on the college campus that I work at. I feel like there might be a certain level of silliness with students. Some students would take it very
Right.
seriously,
Right.
but there's not a week that goes by where I don't at least think about where I would hide in my building.
Well,
I think
that's literally something to think about.
I think about it all the time. I know exactly where I'd go.
Mm-hmm.
I know I like 3 places I would go where I know I could be behind at least 1 or 2 locked doors, and in place, especially in a theater building, you know, the nooks and crannies that
Right.
people don't think about where to go.
Unless they've been a student there.
Yikes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot of merit to putting people in those sort of controlled yet somewhat alarming or scary environments to kind of get, like you said, like if your body hasn't done it, your brain's not going to think of it.
Yep. And I was blown away. I was genuinely impressed with the entire organization at how seriously people took it and how the level of ingenuity, I think, of how where people hid, and because we did debrief, and yeah, it was just, I mean, all in all, it was a couple hours. I mean, there was a lot of planning that went into it, many discussions and meetings, and I mean, it was really taken very seriously by all parties. We didn't just throw it together,
Yeah,
we had input from the local law enforcement, and it was I mean, again, I hate everything about it, but it was really cool.
That is an interesting point, though. It's like I hate it too, but it's like you can't stick your head in the sand and say that it's not going to happen, or that it couldn't happen where either of us work in smaller towns. You know what I mean? Like it absolutely could.
Well, and I mean, I have to speak in general terms, but generally speaking, the level of stick a pin in well-being initiative, but the general level of distress in the community is rising.
Yeah.
And for a variety of reasons. Some of it is caused by Fox News. Some of it is caused by lack of resources. Some of it is caused by opiate addiction and meth, and the combination of those two things. And we're seeing a rise in situations where we can no longer provide services to people because they're simply either unreasonable to the point that we just can't have them in the facility, or like their problem is just addiction.
Yeah, right.
And so we've had to terminate care for people that start getting really angry when we won't prescribe them things like they think we should be prescribing them for their mystery stomach ailment.
But that's like, I mean, that's a whole can of worms too. But the fact that we have overburdened our medical facilities to take care of addiction services because we've denied a lot of institutions the ability to actually address the problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, then the emergency departments or doctors and nurses become the only conduit to receive any level of life-saving care for folks that are just battling addiction, not quote unquote just battling addiction, but you know what I mean? It's like you've overburdened a thing that can't really fix the thing, and there's no other
mechanism. But so I said stick a pin in well-being initiative.
Yeah, that's true. True.
We'll pivot because our friend and past guest Sadie
and Kirsten
thank you. Yes, and some other people that we know are involved or work with or for or have founded the well-being initiative organization in Lincoln.
Yeah,
and I went to their kind of grand opening deal last Friday.
Yeah.
It's what they've got going on over there is just amazing.
Yeah, Kirsten is the director of the Wellness and Education Center, which was the grand opening. They got huge amounts of grant money to open this public space, right? Kirsten,
Mm-hmm.
they planned the grand opening, and Kirsten already had time off. And she's like, "Well, have fun. I'm going to be out of town."
I'm gonna be gone. Yeah. Well, I went and represented.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the one of the people that works there, our friend Melissa, she came down. Well, I know what started this was I was having a conversation with the provider about a situation where we were going to have to terminate care, and it was kind of just shitty, you know.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
you know, I know an organization whose entire mission is to work with these people.
Yeah.
As kind of a last stop, you know,
Yeah.
like they will be proactive. They will reach out to these people. And so Melissa came down to where I work and gave a presentation to all of med staff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. Saying, hey, if you have somebody in this situation, reach out to us, because you may not be able to continue to provide care, but we can try to.
So I think what the Wellbeing Initiative does, and what one of their huge components of their work is, I think what do they call them? The recovery navigators or addiction navigators? What are they? I should know this. Kirsten says it all the time. I'm
not gonna hazard a guess.
But essentially, it's like straight up street outreach, one-on-one peer.
Very similar to what Matt Martinowski does.
Yeah, it's like
venue.
Yeah, it's peer to peer. It's not like it's not clinical in any way. In a way, it's just people that have been through the ringer of addiction, connecting to other people who are currently battling that thing, and there's some umbrella of official services, you know.
Yes,
these people are out there essentially doing street outreach to folks that, you know, need that fill that gap, like we said, that where it's like the medical community, because of the lanes that are given to them, can't do that sort of
well, they don't that's not what they went to school for. It's not their reason for existing,
and it's also unbound by the level of like psych services, right? Like mental health, like official practitioners and clinicians can't really reveal their past, right? So there's like this boundary where these recovery navigators can say, hey, I am sober for 3 years or whatever. I've been through this and I work with this thing and I have some training and I'm here to put you in touch with other recovery groups,
and maybe be able to, much like the 12-step programs, get that level of like, oh wait, this person actually knows what I'm going through.
Yeah.
From a personal level. They didn't spend a half a day. They didn't spend a half a day in a class about alcoholism.
Right. No, they've lived it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that Wellbeing Initiative's doing some very cool stuff, and I highly encourage anybody listening to check them out and throw them a couple bucks, because it's very cool.
It is cool. Like they've actually, and what's cool to see too, because I have a backstage view because Kirsten works there so she's transitioning to sort of be, and has been, the director of the Wellness and Education Center. So they've gotten huge amounts of grant money. I don't know that I can disclose how much, but just the mere fact that there are millions of dollars flowing to organizations like that to do that kind of work tells me that there's some glimmer, sliver of hope that there, you know what I mean? Because the Wellness and Education Center, it's like a rentable space, but it's also a safe place for these groups to meet, recovery groups, mental health groups, support groups, that sort of stuff. And they have space and resources for people like that who have been, unfortunately, or maybe just because of the system, been denied, like, hey, we can't continue to provide care because what you need is not what we do.
Right.
There are places that these folks can find that. And like what Matt Marnowski's doing with the law enforcement, I mean, I feel like hopefully those two sort of things will continue to grow, and that vacuum won't be as.
Or we can just, ramp up the imprisoning of the unhoused.
Yeah, exactly.
Making homelessness a felony, basically.
Right. I mean, because there's money to be made there too.
Well, those for-profit prisons aren't going to fill themselves. Think of the shareholders.
Yeah. I mean, we can't legalize marijuana because there's just too many black and brown folks to imprison because it's just too perfect. We can't. What are we gonna do? We got to fill these.
What about the frat boys, Joel?
Oh my God.
Well, good night, everybody.
I was thinking about that, and
what about Brock Turner?
Who's Brock Turner?
He's the guy that raped the girl behind the garbage dumpster and left her for dead.
Oh my
and then
God.
got caught. Yeah.
And then became like a clown for that whole like white privileged male misogynistic privileged bullshit.
Yeah.
Rape culture nonsense.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Anyway, sorry.
Hard tangent, but there's no tangents. I actually, one of the Kirsten signed up for Audible to get a free credit.
Yeah.
So we could listen to a book on the way home.
Mm-hmm.
And as ridiculous as he is, Seth Rogen's autobiography called Yearbook, we listened to that.
Mm-hmm. Was it good?
He addresses a lot of really poignant social issues in that.
I think Seth Rogen has made a career out of looking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's ridiculous. I think he's really smart.
He's super smart. I mean, he makes no bones about the fact that he smokes weed every day, all day long, right?
Total gooner.
But the thing is, like, he got into it just sort of not dumbly, but just sort of like, I'm a normal guy and I'm going to ask some questions, and I happen to be a celebrity, so I'm going to ask these questions of the former CEO of Twitter back when Trump was tweeting all that bullshit and all of those verified counts that were just retweeting and sharing white supremacist anti-Semitic stuff. And he's Jewish, so he's like, how the fuck do these guys have a platform? And this whole chapter, he talks about how he just called it all out, and it was really interesting and really cool. The Brock Turner thing made me think of that because he addresses some of that shit there too. But it was nice to hear him tell stories without his goofy laugh, because normally when he's on a late night show, he's
playing the part.
He's so high, he has to laugh at everything he says.
Right.
He's got some funny LSD stories in there too. I think you'd appreciate. But
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I've read about it.
You've read about LSD?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read a book about LSD.
I'm actually reading the electric Kool-Aid acid test again.
How many times is this now?
Only like 3 maybe. And I wish that I would have read it a lot earlier than I did. It would have saved me a lot of trouble, probably.
Yeah.
It's not exactly an instruction manual, but there's a lot of insight in there.
Sure.
And Kesey was right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Seth Rogen's book, you got to listen to. I think it's funny because
I'm in.
Yeah, you should totally listen to it. It's a good time. It's hilarious. It's very insightful. It's very heartfelt, and it's also really poignant, I think. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I've always liked him. It's kind of, I know that there's a deeper guy underneath what you see on the silver screen,
Yeah, I mean, you don't formulate that level of production company and write that many hit movies
by being a dumbass,
by being a complete fucking loser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of like, Jerry Garcia.
Right. Yeah. He also calls out some Hollywood names and puts their names on these stories it's pretty great.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of there's some expose parts of it too. So
have we had what the hell's the guy's name? We're bumping up against time here, but what's the author? Bruce Wagner. Have you read any of Bruce Wagner's stuff?
I don't think so. No.
One of his big books is called Force Majeure. And there's a couple other ones too.
I've heard of this.
Yeah. Well, Marin interviewed him a while back, so I read a couple of his books, and they are dark stories, all centered kind of around Hollywood.
Is this the one where it's kind of fictitious but not fictitious? Yeah.
Yes. And he weaves in a bunch of actual people.
Yeah.
In situations that may or may not actually have happened, or it's kind of like, it's very dreamlike in that way. Like, that could have happened. Right.
Yeah.
They are, I'm not gonna even get into it other than to say that if you haven't read some Bruce Wagner, I'm not going to say do yourself a favor, because that's not exactly what's happening.
Right.
But if you really want to kind of experience the underworld, doesn't even begin to cap. It's just some of the most, I mean, it's complete. Like I had to just like, I'm going to shower or something.
Well, it's one of those where he's maybe making up the specifics, but you believe it because you're like, oh, he's totally coming from a place of
this.
Maybe
totally
have seen some of that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the actual scene might be fictitious, but the circumstances absolutely happen. Gotcha. Like one of them is about there's a paparazzi squad, only their whole thing is like beaver shots.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so that's a whole, and that exists. It's a thing, you know.
Wow.
So yeah,
I'm gonna leave that there.
See what but I mean, like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, oh God.
Yeah.
It's the train wreck I couldn't stop reading, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Maybe I'll download one of those books, and that'll be my after I get out of rehearsal this week at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night as I'm driving back in the dark.
Oh, that'd be perfect, actually. Perfect.
Take my mind off of things, put it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, put it right in the gutter.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes after a late night of rehearsal, I just need to just drive home with nothing on. Like
I do that.
You know what I mean? Just let the wind howl in my car. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Back to the grind
back to the
grind of my dream job. How fucking horrible I have it.
All right. We're trying to be better here, Joel.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my dog for a walk, do some yoga, watch some football.
I'm gonna go to lunch. I'm gonna go to lunch with my mom, I think.
Oh, nice. Where are you guys gonna go?
I don't know. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Well, enjoy your lunch with your mom.
I'm gonna, buddy. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you made it back.
Made it back one piece. Driving in the rain pretty much most of the last 2 days kind of, gets to your head, but
yeah,
we made it. We're alive.
I love it. I love you.
Right. I love you too, Steve. I really do,
man. We'll see you around.
All right, we'll see you around
later.
I'd rather be in some dark harbor where the sun don't ever shine than to be home alone, knowing that you're gone would cause me to lose my mind. So blow your whistle, freight train, take me far on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. I'd rather be in some dark holler where the sun don't ever shine than to be in some big city in a small room with you on my mind. So blow your whistle, freight train, take me far on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. I'm going, but I ain't coming back. Train, take me far on down the track. I'm going away, I'm leaving today. going, but I ain't coming back.
Don't forget, toot your hooter.
Thank you.